Hello and welcome to the first ever edition of Classin' Up the Joint. This is the part of the show where we talk to amazing people that are super inspiring about their favorite character classes. I am super excited for my first ever guest here and also super nervous and maybe fanboying a little bit hard. We'll see. And I'm going to let my first guest introduce themselves because it's one of the many things that I find amazing and super inspiring is how practiced it is. Please go ahead.
It's me. Wow. I feel like there are great expectations foisted upon me for this intro. So just watch me stumble over my words immediately.
10 seconds or less.
Okay, I'm going to try to do it. I'm going to elevator pitch it. But hello, friends and family, ? Loved ones who are tuning in. I am Connie Chang. My pronouns are they, he, and she. You can find me across the internet at by Connie Chang. That's BYCONNICHANG. You might know me as the game master and creative producer of Transplanar RPG, which is an all transgender, people of color led TTRPG show set in an original non-colonial anti-Orientalist multiverse. I'm not sure exactly when this is going to release, but as of the recording, very psyched to share that we are currently between main campaigns. And the second main campaign of Transplanar is going to be launching at the end of Pride Month, June 2023, which I'm really excited about. And I'm also so excited to be here and to talk about all things character class.
Well, to the first point of our podcast and our interview today, Connie, what is your favorite D&D character class?
That is a really hard question to answer, even though I knew I was going to have to answer it for this segment. So I have several. I am not going to rank them.
Fair.
I'm gonna narrow it down to a couple, and then maybe we can like winnow it down to just a single winner. So there's a bit of a bias because these are all classes I've played. So I'm not going to include classes I haven't played necessarily. So that immediately disqualifies Druid. And I also don't think I've played Ranger, right? So it's not because
Who
it's
has,
or Cleric.
Really?
Or Cleric.
Kidding.
Not the Ranger shade.
I give them a lot of shade, and then I have sort of played one, and I'm like, okay, they take 10 plus levels to kind of really get going in some ways, but they're kind of cool, some of them. Listen.
I mean, Gloomstalker Ranger is pretty cool. Of the underloved classes, the Gloomstalker Ranger subclass really, I think it's one of the best of that class. It really punches it up, I think, especially if you pair it with like an Assassin Rogue or something, which is like such a classic multi-classing pairing, right? But yes, I would say of the classes I have played, my favorites would probably be Barbarian, Wizard, or Bard. And I think for the flavor reasons, I always look at it from like a flavor narrative story engine standpoint of my favorite class, because I'm less invested in like the mechanical punch. How I am as a GM is like, you can play whatever you want. And like, I'll make sure behind the scenes that your character is still valuable to the party and doing cool and interesting things. Like, I'm not going to use like, maybe perhaps a less even design against you necessarily on my end as a facilitator. Just come to me with your cool ideas and we'll go from there. So from a cool idea standpoint, I think the Barbarian class has some really cool ideas. I really like the ideas. I just like bards because I think if I were to have a class in real life, I would be a bard. So I'm kind of biased that way. And I like wizards too because I specifically really like the Chronergy Wizard, which I got the absolute honor and pleasure of getting to play for a campaign season on Three Black Halflings for their Outlaws and Obelisks campaign. And I had a ton of fun with Chronergy Wizard there.
Absolutely. Okay, so the super fast breakdown of each of these, right? Barbarians, we get our D12 of hit dice. You get the most hit points, assuming you roll well, or if you do your fixed hit points. Ton of good proficiencies, good starting things. Then we go with Rage, Unarmored Defense, all the fun class features, your Primal Path features that come into play, Brutal Crits, super, super fun, and that awesome 20th level Primal Champion where you can just naturally bump your strength and con above 20 without needing to like find or buy some insane giant belt.
Like a belt. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And super, super fun. Bards, we get our D8, pretty solid mid-range hit points. Fun spell lists and your magical secrets and your inspirations. the like escalating inspiration die, and what was the I've never gotten a bard to level 20, so superior inspiration. Okay, can regain inspiration, and I have to agree on the wizard. Like it's not only the flavor, but I feel like how you can build it and focus on such different qualities of spells, you know?
I would say wizard just in terms of, if we're just thinking pure rules as written, just pure raw, wizard is one of the strongest classes out there, I would say, in terms of just like mechanics and utility and access to spells. I think it's hard to beat a wizard, especially a player who knows the rules and like knows their wizard really well. It's, you know, it's really difficult to beat a wizard on that front. But again, the approach with which I'm evaluating my favorite class is a little bit mechanics, but mostly flavor, mostly like the lore and its ability to generate narrative.
Well, and I think that some of the class things are really interesting too. Like, you know, you're giving up your hit points almost immediately unless you find one item or other that like gives you a really strong constitution, roll really amazing stats. And it's also funny to me that how many things are subclass specific. You know, they're basic things. You get arcane recovery in your arcane tradition. You get kind of one more ability score improvement than some other classes, and your spell mastery. But then, like, so many things are about what specific subclass features you get at various stopping points along that level progression.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I know 1D&D, like, they are interested in changing their approach to the wizard class. So it's not just, like, based on the different, I think, schools of magic. But I'm not too familiar on the specifics of that.
Amazing. Okay, so we've got 3.
Yes.
Can we narrow it down? Can we get to the favorite? I sympathize a lot with, like, I also feel like I would have many bard levels and maybe pure bard if I was to, character class my own self. But like I said, wizards are hard to beat. Barbarians have, like, tons of flavor, so much fun. Yeah.
I would say between the 3, I'm just going to have to, I think, I'm going to have to favor the Barbarian just for, like, I mean, I'm an Aries. Listen, Anger is my middle name. Connie Angry Chang. So I'm going to have to go with Barbarian. I love bards. I love wizards. They're both great. They also get a lot of love. Otherwise, I feel like barbarians are, honestly, they can sometimes be a little underrated. I don't see them too much on streams. I don't see them too much in podcasts or even at tables. I think I've only ever GM'd one barbarian ever.
Wow.
Yeah, as a player at my tables. And I think I've GM'd so many tables and so many players at this point. I think I've only ever GM'd one barbarian. So I wanna spread the barb love.
Hell yes.
And I also need to represent barbarians because I play one on Vanna's channel for higher education. We're currently on a hiatus, but for the first season, I played this character called Mystagogue Zool Graves. She goes by Stag. Total she, her, thembo. She, they, thembo. Herbo, what have you. Big, muscular, jock, Goliath. You know the drill. Barbarian. Looks really tough. Kind of seems like a douchebag on the surface, but is also really sweet, like genuinely very sweet. And deep inside, she just wants to play music. She has an axe, right? Like an axe that can go both ways, just like she does.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And I
love it.
Yeah, it's like a classic. It's so funny because Stag is kind of in a High School Musical movie, right? Where like her dad's are like, you have to be a strong fighter. She's like, I just want to play music. But everyone else in that campaign is going through like how to get away with murder. And like we have someone who used to be an assassin. Like we have someone who's like is in a really bad like warlock situation, or we have someone else who's like having weird dreams about massive rock, half gods that want to talk to them and commune with them. And meanwhile, Stag's here being like, I just want to write a song about a bad breakup I had.
Just want to have my emo moment. I'm imagining one of like the sort of stereotype heavy metal axe guitars too, but like a functional axe that somehow the bridge of the guitar is like still.
Yep.
Oh, that warms my heart in so many ways. I will say, should I ever happen to appear on any game that you're jamming, I will absolutely be a barbarian.
Yes, we need more barbarians.
Just to bring that love. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I would love I understand the need for balance, and I still want to cast spells when I'm raging.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's, the idea of like Thor, like slamming down like a huge explosion of magical energy and thunder and lightning. That's, I mean, you can't beat that. You can't beat that. That's why Barbs are my favorite, because you can just like punch really hard and make things explode with how hard you punch them.
Yes.
That's what I like about that class. Yeah.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for listening to the show. If you want to hear the full interview with Connie and all my other guests on Classin' Up the Joint, head on over and support us on Patreon. You can visit it at patreon.com/therollreport. While you're at it, why not follow us over on Instagram and TikTok at @therollreportcast. That would be super cool. And if you wanted to go one step further, give us a rating and a review on whatever format you're listening to us on. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or other places. Helps other people find the show, and we get warm, fuzzy feelings inside when we see them and read them. Thanks so much. Back to the interview.
Okay, so we have narrowed down favorite class, and now the nitty-gritty. Favorite subclass, or what is in the running for favorite subclass? Doesn't need to be a barb, but like anywhere. What do you think?
Ooh, well, I mean, I've spoken about this a few times. I would say the Path of the Ancestral Guardian for Barbarian, I really enjoy. I just really like the flavor of it. This idea, because it generates such an interesting character story already. Like you have this innate connection to your family, to your ancestors, to the people who came before you, right? So that, I think, gives the GM a lot to work with, right? If you're picking that subclass, it gives the GM a lot to work with to fold into the story. It gives you a lot to work with as a player and as a performer to like, what's your relationship with these spirits? Like, how did you learn to first tap into it? Like, what did they demand of you? How do they feel about you? Like stuff like that. I think there's just a lot of rich material there. Also mentioned this before. I really like the Chronergy Wizard. I think it's also Divination Wizard for kind of similar reasons. I think some of the abilities they get are just some of the coolest and most unique in D&D, rules as written. Like the Divination Wizard gets those portent dice, which are super cool. I played a Divination Wizard once, back in college. I had a blast playing her. I really enjoyed rolling those portent dice, and the ability to swap that D20 out with any D20 that gets rolled is incredible, which is why I always ask, I ask my dice to roll really high and roll really low for my portent dice, because that's what you want. Yeah.
I agree. It's so cool. There's nothing more disappointing than rolling those and going like, it's a 14 and a 15 and a 12.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Like you can kind of bank on those as kind of average or middling rolls, but I guess that's kind of the trade-off of having that very powerful mechanic. So I really like portent die that come with Divination Wizard. Just a lot of the Chronergy abilities of like, I think there's one where you can like basically try a roll again, like basically the equivalent of kind of like the lucky feat, but like phrased kind of differently. Like anything that gives you a little bit of an extra edge that lets you re-roll dice is just like, in D&D with such a swingy core resolution mechanic is incredibly powerful. So picking up anything that lets you just like have advantage or like roll multiple times, especially if you can affect other people's rolls, is very, very useful. And it's not just utility, it's also flavor. Like you're rewinding time, like you're turning back time. You're like, like doing a quick recall. And I think that's really cool. And any sort of like time travel stuff, I have such a weak spot for. I really like time magic.
Totally.
As a player, as a GM, I think it's a ton of fun. It is a headache to have to facilitate sometimes, especially because the kinds of worlds I like to build have very specific magic systems. So like and specific lore around how like the universe works. So like if people go around and just willy-nilly doing time stuff, I'm like, oh god, okay, give me a second. I need to figure out.
And there must be consequences of some sort.
Exactly. And you can't just go around just doing time magic willy-nilly all the time and getting everything you want because that's not interesting. Again, without spoiling too much, what people who may or may not be involved in time stuff will do with it. So Chronergy.
We're not spoiling anything. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, I'm keeping my lips sealed tight.
Okay.
But yeah, Chronergy,
so
Divination.
Ancestral Guardian.
Yes, Ancestral Guardian. I do like Gloomstalker too. Gloomstalker Ranger. I think it makes the Ranger class worth playing in a lot of ways, and it's fun. It's fun. You can just like become invisible in shadow, and that's cool as hell, and has such great multi-classing like synergy, especially with Rogue. What other I really like College of Glamour for Bard. Again, I like the flavor a lot because I like playing really hot, it's like sociable characters. Totally. So like College of Glamour Bard, you really can't. I mean, that's one of the hottest classes and subclasses.
It's very much that.
Just rules as written, 100%. Right? Just objectively speaking, it's one of the hottest classes and subclasses out there, right? So yeah, it's just so many great subclasses to choose from. I feel like there's always one that I'm Echo Knight, of course. Echo Knight is great. Echo Knight is cool as hell because it's so weird. It's so weird, like an Echo.
Yes.
What? That's super specific, but also very fun.
Yes.
Very fun. I had the pleasure of facilitating an Echo Knight during a home game. And that was fun to see how the player flavored that. And I will be playing an Echo Knight soon. And I'm excited. Cool. to put them in action.
They're a lot of fun. Wow. Okay. Super fast. Let's see if we can do super fast rundown. I have pulled up these things on D&D Beyond, and because I was like, I want to be able to have the information. And I don't know if you want to pull up, we can trade off a little bit. But like, okay, Gloomstalkers. All the ranger features that we're not going to talk about. You get the fun and adventurous Gloomstalker magic features at 3rd level, some cool spells, Dread Ambusher, a wisdom bonus to your initiative, and like extra special first turn of combat to things. Dark vision that goes out. Wow, right. I never look at rangers. I didn't even remember half of these things. Gaining proficiency in wisdom, and if you already have it, you get intelligence or charisma instead. Once each at 11th level, an extra attack if you miss as part of the same action, and you can impose disadvantage on people at 15th level if they don't have advantage already. Wow. Yeah. Good stuff.
It's some good stuff. Yeah. It actually kind of beefs up the ranger class. It's one of the most popular ranger subclasses for a reason, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I think the Dread Ambusher is really good. Oh, right. There's the extra parts of that of like extra walking speed and additional weapon attack and an extra D8 of damage.
You can't say no to that. You can't say no to that. Yeah. And the thing about that is too, like, there's also great flavor, right? If you want to play an edgelord, boom. There you go. If you want to play an edgelord that can actually do some serious damage, boom, there you go. Like Gloomstalker Ranger, go. Pair it with an assassin rogue.
Combine it with what's it? Blood Hunter, and have like all the edge. Yep. So much edge, so much lore.
Just dripping with it. Just dripping. So the thing about Blood Hunter, I would be remiss if I didn't say this, as Oka is my beloved Blood Hunter. Oka is a character on the Second Stranger, which is the first main campaign on Transplanar that just wrapped, beginning of 2023. Oka Hien, played by C. Thomas, who is also my producer and dramaturg and my partner. So what I like about the Blood Hunter class is its potential, is its storytelling potential, because so much of it's basically Witcher. You're a Witcher. You're playing a Witcher.
Yeah.
But specifically, I homebrewed a subclass for Oka that basically made them a blood mage, like a blood bender, and like really focusing on the blood part of Blood Hunter, right? So kind of like a martial class that can tap into the blood and the life force of other creatures that exist and manipulate that to their own advantage and have that innate connection to kind of the soul and the body via the blood. And this also worked in very well with some of this homebrew world building lore I had set up around the Divine Triptych, which was something I created. This idea of a living being is comprised of 3 main parts: the body, the mind, and the soul. And blood hunters are masters over one aspect of the body, blood, right? And there are also in my world like bone magicians and flesh magicians and blood magicians, right? And they're all kind of also necromancers, right? Because when you control the vessels and the expressions of life, you also kind of control death in a way, right? did really cool stuff throughout the entire campaign where, like, for instance, if Oka hit 0 or like was in a tough spot, they would like flavor them popping back up to 1 as like forcing their own heart to keep pumping. And they would like use their magic to make that blood continue to circulate, or they would like calm their anxiety by like slowing down their heart rate, or like increasing people's anxiety by making their heart rate elevate, right? Or like pulling on poison that might be in people's blood.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
I feel like that is such a great example of like player maybe I don't know where the idea started, but player has cool idea. GM goes like, yes, I will make that happen because it is amazing storytelling and flavor, and like make a whole subclass. And to have your player then be able to really maximize their usage of it and do so in some really creative and weird ways. Like,
Yes, absolutely.
Like, I love that for you guys. That's so cool.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely very much the kind of GM who will make stuff for you if you ask, or like if you clearly have like, you know, have a really strong passion or a really strong idea that fits with the world. But that isn't exactly being reflected in the mechanics that we have access to.
Sure.
Like I'll say, screw it, I'll do it. You know, like give me what you want and I'll come up with something for you.
Okay. Final answer. Favorite subclass. We got Ancestral Guardian, Echo Knight, Chronergy, Divination, or Glamour Bard.
You know what?
Narrowing down from 5, or like, let's get it down to 2. How about top 2 of those 5?
Okay, I'm going to give a top 2, and one of my top 2 is going to be a cop-out answer. Because I've actually decided one of my top 2 is going to be the Order of Hemomancy subclass that I homebrew for Oka as a blood hunter. Because you know what? I put my whole pussy in that. I put my entire entire pussy into that subclass. And I think my entire non-binary pussy. Let me just keep saying that word at the very end of our interview. And I'm very proud of it. So I'm gonna put that as one of the 2. And you know what? Chronergy Wizard. Chronergy Wizard is the other one.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. And the last moment of going over that, like, Chronal Shift is that sort of lucky feature of forcing a reroll. Any creature that you or any other creature within 30 feet throws a d20, you can make them reroll, and they have to use the second roll. Intelligence modifier added to your initiative rolls. Momentary Stasis, I also think is super fun. That is the 6th level feature. Force a large or smaller creature within 60 feet to make a con save. And then it's just, if it fails, it's just, nothing happens. It's just stuck until the end of your next turn. It's like, I think it's honestly like a slightly more balanced version of a Monk Stun, because it's stuck unless it takes damage, but it is incapacitated till the end of your next turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Arcane Abeyance at 10th level, you can cast a spell of 4th level or lower and freeze it in time in a little bead for an hour. And you can you or another creature can use your action to release the spell, or at the end of an hour, it vanishes. Never mind. And that's a short rest recharge. And then Convergent Futures. Yeah. 14th level, you or a creature within 60 feet throws a d20, you can use your reaction to ignore the die and decide whether it succeeds or fails. You do gain a level of exhaustion, but seems worth it to really just decide if someone succeeds or fails.
That's some GM level power. Like, you know what? You got a nat 20, doesn't matter. You got a nat 20 on your save against me, doesn't matter. You fail. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And I think crucially, I don't know how this would like interface with a GM's legendary resistance feature, because you can choose to succeed if you fail. So I don't know if the wording of that would prevent a GM from using legendary resistance, because if it would, then that is super powerful.
I cannot wait to see how many people are going to weigh in on that.
Right?
I would want to give it to the player if they're willing to take a level of exhaustion. Right? This thing you can only use this, I think, once. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, I guess if you're willing to take exhaustions, you could probably do it, 3-4 times, and then find yourself stuck as the one place you don't want to be as a wizard, stuck, unable to move, or moving at half speed and rolling with disadvantage on everything. If my player was willing to do that to bypass a legendary resistance, I think I might want to give it to them. I don't know if, Jeremy Crawford's weighed in on that, and like I'm sure the internet has a million opinions. but I feel like I'd want to give it to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. All right. Have heard it here. We have the Barbarian and Chronergy Wizard / Order of Hemocraft?
Hemomancy.
Hemomancy.
Yeah.
Homebrewed Blood Hunter subclass. Connie, thank you so much for joining me. I am honored. I am humbled. I am so happy to get to spend this time with you. That was really wonderful. I really appreciate it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on, Colin. It was a total joy and pleasure to chat with you.
Yeah, thank you. Check out Transplanar RPG. A new arc is starting, and I think by the time this episode is released, it will be. And what is the official start date?
Yeah, it's Saturday, June 24th of 2023.
There will be one episode in the books when this comes out. Probably, we think. So go check out Transplanar RPG, support the show. To touch on politics for a moment, now more than ever, it is important to support trans creators, content. I don't want to get too far into it, but I feel very strongly about this, so I am super happy. Any other things that you would like to plug? Any exciting things coming up that people should check out?
Buy and play Godkiller. Buy and play Godkiller. We haven't talked about it at all, but it's a game I wrote. By the time this comes out, it will be for sale on my itch, a digital only ash can of Godkiller, which is an original Holy Punk PBTA game for one player, the Godkiller, and one GM God. Ooh. So if that's interesting to you, just search up Godkiller First Blood. It should be the first result on itch, and you can buy it at this time for $20, the digital PDF. But people who pre-ordered it got 20% off, so they could buy for $15. Cool. But that's a pretty good deal if you ask me.
That's a pretty good deal for a pretty cool game written by an amazing, super cool human. And yeah, I don't know. I don't have an outro yet. I guess we'll be back in a while. I'll figure it out eventually, and I'll probably re-record it a million times.
Exactly. We can also keep talking, and you could fade it down. You could just slowly fade our voices out.
It slowly put the music goes away.
Yeah. And the music's gonna start playing.
It's beautiful. Stuff's happening.